Recently I came into possession of a huge cardboard box, and inside this cardboard box was more DVDs than any one man could ever need. After a long, tedious process of cataloging every single disc in this box and every single disc on my shelves into a big list, I realized that I've only actually seen 55% of the movies that I own. Well, that's a bit embarrassing, so obviously I have to remedy that, so join me if you want, as I go one by one through all the films I own but haven't seen. When I stop and think about the greatest movies ever made, there's always a few that pop into my head right off the bat, as I'm sure the same thing happens to you. You know, Kung Fu Panda 2, Space Jam, Breaking Dawn Part 2, all the classics, you know, it's cliche, but whatever. But I'm hoping, with all my heart, that the movie we watch today will join the ranks and stand on the shoulders among the giants that I just mentioned. So today, we're gonna watch Oh my god. Yeah, Flash Gordon. We're doing Flash Gordon. Truly, the most epic movie that I've seen in ever is Flash Gordon. It doesn't really fit into any traditional description of a good movie. Die! But that's what's so special about it. It transcends the traditional sense of anything. Imagine if you gave a 13-year-old kid free rein to just write the most epic adventure story that their stupid little brain could ever conjure up, and then you took that story, didn't edit it one bit, gave it a big studio budget and the director of Morons from Outer Space, which, by the way, would have been a great title for Flash Gordon. Bada bing, bada boom, you got Flash Gordon. That's what it is. That's how pure this film is. From start to finish. It's just the dumbest, most ridiculous sci-fi nonsense you've ever seen. And I kind of love it. But at the same time, I also kind of hate it with every fiber of my very being. We'll get into that though. Okay, buckle in. Because I'm going to try to explain what this movie is. I'm not even sure I know. So Flash Gordon himself, the character, is an American football player. He wears a shirt with his name on it for some reason. And he gets on a plane with a woman named Dale. I can't say that without chuckling. And it crashes because a space dictator named Ming was messing with the wind. You know, it happens. The plane crashes right into the lab of the best character in the movie, crazed ex-NASA scientist Hans Zarkov. Hans knows someone is attacking Earth, forces Flash and Dale onto a spaceship to go to a random planet, which just happens to be the planet where the enemy is. They land on the planet, and so begins the quest to save Earth from a spaceman named Ming, who loves to push the tornado button and fuck with Earth for no particular reason. Does that make sense? Because that about covers the first 5 minutes of the movie. So right off the bat, I gotta give it some credit. My problem with a lot of comic book movies, recently at least, is that they're lifeless. Like, they're just flat in every possible way. But that is not a complaint that carries over to Mr. Gordon here. The opposite, actually. This movie is leaking, spilling from every orifice, is life and color and ambition. Too much ambition, if you ask me, for its own good, because it's very bloated and confusing a lot of the time. But there was legitimate effort and heart put into this movie, and I can respect that. A lot of the time it pays off, not necessarily in the way that they intended, but a lot of this movie is really, really charming. I mentioned in my 16 blocks video that I love practical effects and miniatures and stuff like that, and Flash Gordon is chock full of that stuff. Not all of it looks good, but it all makes me smile nonetheless. Like the lizard men, for example, my favorite thing ever in any movie I've ever seen are the lizard men. They look like total shit. Like, they look horrible.
Hold, lizard man. Escape is impossible.
But I wouldn't have it any other way. Also, side note, if anyone knows where to buy a lizard man costume, please DM me on Twitter. My friend is looking to buy one, and he's willing to pay anything for one. And not just the practical effects either, but the CGI too. Like, it looks bad, but I never realized this until now, that terrible 80s CGI is my kryptonite. It's amazing. Every time the villains laser something, it cracked me the hell up, which is good because like 50% of this movie is just CGI lasers. And then if 50% of the movie is lasers, the other 50%, for some reason, is just everybody being really horny. I have to talk about this. There's a lot of things that I was expecting from Flash Gordon, but for it to be one of the horn-doggiest movies I've ever seen, was not one of them. There's this thick, disgusting, slimy layer of eroticism on top of every other scene, and it's really weird and distracting. Every single character is trying to go to fucktown on another character at all times. Sometimes the characters will even try to guilt each other into some sexy time, and it was just weird. I didn't get it. There's a scene where Flash is talking to the love of his life, Dale, over this telepathic phone that, whatever, it doesn't matter. And while he's doing that, this hot princess is just going to tongue town on his face, and he's making no effort to stop her. He even says this, for God's sake.
Stay where you're safe.
Oh my God, this girl's really turning me on.
I didn't quite get that. Think it again.
It's just really weird how hot and bothered this movie is.
Don't worry, I won't look. I like you a lot.
Who wrote this?
Oh my God, this girl's really turning me on.
Lorenzo Semple Jr. needs to be arrested by the horny police ASAP. Because it feels like it should be illegal to see Emperor Ming getting ready to go down on Dale. it's bleh. Anyway, moving on from that, I never want to say those words again. I find this movie kind of tough to talk about because on one hand it knows exactly what it is and it's fully embracing how ridiculous it is. But on the other hand, that doesn't really give it an excuse to be poorly made in other aspects, you know what I mean? Like, for example, I, for whatever reason, was always under the impression that this was like borderline an indie movie. I always thought that it had a relatively small budget, but people with lots of heart putting their all into this little budget to make something truly epic, despite the restrictions. And that was one of the things that made it so charming to me while I watched it. But while I was preparing for this video, I learned that they had a budget of $35 million. Now nowadays that's chump change, of course. Dwayne Johnson gets paid double that just to raise an eyebrow. Sheldon gets paid triple that just to say Bazinga! But to put that in perspective of the time that it was made, that's $2 million more than Empire Strikes Back and $5 million more than Blade Runner. Those two movies look amazing today, in my opinion. And Flash Gordon, while some scenes look pretty good, the majority of Flash Gordon felt like a TV movie or like some cheap episode of Star Trek. Considering the budget, it's kind of sad how cheap it looks. And personally for me, that takes away a lot of the charm. Instead of it feeling like passionate people fighting a small budget to make the next Star Wars, it ended up, ironically enough, feeling like the next Star Wars.
My trick's gonna work on me. Only money.
But even outside of the presentation, the writing in this movie is interesting, is how I'll put it.
Fly back to your kingdom. You may see me sooner than you think.
Lying bitch.
But does it get an excuse to be bad if it knows it's bad? I don't think so. I didn't let it slide for Deadpool. I'm definitely not going to let it slide for Flash Gordon. It's not bad in a satirical way like Black Dynamite or something like that. It's just bad. And the acting doesn't help, man. Oh my god. Other than Max von Sydow, the performances in this movie are not so hot. I gotta be honest with you. Flash himself, I feel really bad for this dude because he gets the shortest end of the space stick here. Not only is he the least capable actor in the movie, but the poor guy also gets stuck with some of the most dog shit dialogue I've ever heard. Like, listen to this.
Well, I guess I'll be running along now.
You lunatic! I demand to see the governor! I can hardly breathe in this thing!
I was trying to get my head together by myself. You know?
I sure do.
Back off!
One move and you're looking for a new prince.
And the bad writing doesn't stop at the dialogue. The actual story of Flash Gordon is ridiculous. The world building is one of the least graceful things I've ever seen in my life. It just bashes you over the head with the least convincing characters and worlds ever. Just to compare, let's take a look at one of my favorite movies, one of everybody's favorite movies, come on, Spirited Away. It does the same kind of thing where it just thrusts us into this magical world with hardly any explanation for anything. But Spirited Away is so beautiful and it's presented in a way that feels like lots of thought was put into the universe. You can look at any frame of that movie and it always feels like there's a history to everything that you can see. Where Flash Gordon kind of acts like it's this universe, like this deep universe, but it's actually about as deep as a puddle. And it moves so fast that you barely have any idea what's going on from scene to scene. It feels like a 2-hour fever dream, if I'm being honest. A really entertaining one, I will admit, but a fever dream nonetheless. One minute we're on a plane with a football player, and the next we're watching Timothy Dalton in a creeper skin coat fight a Birdman for stealing his big jewel peace offering. It's that jarring. With that being said, it might be a backhanded compliment, but despite my complaints, a lot of this movie is unbelievably entertaining. All of the legitimately good things, which there are some, come together with the really not so good things, and they team up to make one of the most insane movies I've ever seen in my life. And I would highly recommend you see it as well. If I had to give Flash Gordon a rating though, I'd give it 2 ugly lizard men out of 5. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I apologize for not making one of these in so long. I've been busy with real life work, abusing children for a living. But I'll be back. We're doing Jennifer's Body next, which I'm very excited about because that is a good ass movie. I feel like I've been so negative lately, but I'm really excited to talk about a movie that I thoroughly enjoyed. So I'll see you then. Bye bye.